given the occasion, I thought I had to do a video just on Sam Morin. Now, Sam Morin holds a spot very near and dear to my heart. And I mean that honestly. Like, I'm not kidding. I had a pretty emotional time watching that game. If anybody followed me, I don't really tweet that often. Sometimes I do, especially if I'm at the game covering it. But I could not take my eyes off the kid. And I know there's obviously the narrative with the Flyers needing some toughness right now and a spark and all that. And he obviously, I mean, he couldn't have asked for a better fit right now. But watching what happened, what cultivated over, in my eyes, has been, I guess now, how many years has it been already? I mean, he was drafted in 2013, so for me, it's been about 8 years, almost, of watching Sam Morin. Now, for a lot of people, you guys might be like, oh, well, whatever. Like, he got injured. It happens. But I was always high on Sam Morin. Let's start at the beginning. So Sam Morin gets drafted number 11 overall in the 2013 draft. There were other players available that people look back through history and go, oh, could the Flyers have grabbed him? Max Domi was a guy taken in that draft as well. A guy that maybe people would covet, and Rasmus Ristolainen was taken prior to that. But if you go back and actually shout out to Anthony Sanfilippo, who at the time I believe was working for the Flyers, and he created an awesome video series, which was really innovative on his part. I believe he's one of the creators of this, and they got to actually film some of the draft conversation. You could see the board, and they kind of kept everything but his name off except for Sam Morin, and you saw him. He was very high on the Flyers board, higher than 11. And they were talking about guys like Sean Monahan in comparison to Sam Morin, just to let people know. Now, Morin over time, the expectations were always high. If you look at the draft year, this is the beginning of the Flyers defense rebuild. This is when the cupboard was empty. This is right before Ron Hextall took over in 2013. Well, 2013, he was already assistant GM. 2014, he started taking over. That's where you have Travis Sanheim the following year. But this year, the Flyers took two defensemen. They took Samuel Morin at 11. They took Robert Haig in the second round, just at the end. I have to look it up right now. But again, Robert Haig was also supposed to be a first-round pick, but he was insurance for Sam Morin. Now, Sam Morin came in, Chief. Craig Berube was coach at the time, and if you were there, and I happened to be there for his first preseason game, you could hear that kid scream from the stands. And the last time I saw anybody do that was Chris Pronger. Now, again, he's been compared to Chris Pronger. If you're comparing him to Chris Pronger, it's not because of the fact he fights. It's really, or his skill set in particular. It's some of those skills, but it's really his personality. He's definitely a heart and soul guy to an extreme, extremely lovable, playful in a lot of ways. Pronger was also like this, but also really nasty on the ice, like mean. And we've seen footage. If you've seen, you can watch Sam Morin drag people across the ice. You can watch him punch people. He got a fine the other day, right, for not even waiting for Brendan Lemieux to even be ready for a fight. Just pummeled into him, right? So he gets taken. The Flyers never drafted him to be a top-pairing defenseman. They drafted him to be a complementary defenseman, a shutdown guy, a physical guy. And, over time, he had the injuries. Now, we had a young core then, and a really exciting names. And if you were on HF boards or even on Twitter back in the day, you know the names. Ivan Provorov, Travis Sanheim, Shane Gostisbehere, Robert Haig, and Sam Morin. And then later, Phil Myers was added to that group. Now, Haig, as we know, a second-round pick, still progressing, but really seems to be more of a bottom-pairing guy. Pretty physical, has a lot of those things. Definitely an NHL player, but, he's not a guy that you're really going to rely on in your top four. Maybe in the future, but as of right now, we don't really see that. Now, is Robert Haig nasty and mean? No. Sam Morin is. Fast forward into the future, the Philadelphia Flyers have option. They go either Robert Haig or Sam Morin. Both of them are about NHL ready. Robert Haig kind of went through the pro system earlier. Sam Morin kind of finished his juniors career, went to World Junior Championships, stuff like that. Again, made a name for himself a different way. Robert Haig was just more NHL ready. And the Flyers had a decision. They went with Robert Haig. And I thought it was actually a mistake at the time. I actually thought Sam Morin outplayed him. But, not the end of the world, right? It's just an initial part of your career. It didn't mean he wasn't going to make the team later in the year. But unfortunately, Sam Morin tore his ACL immediately after that, only, I think, about a week or two afterwards. And then, the road to recovery began, and he lost about 2 years. And again, this kid was compared to Pronger, and he had such high expectations. And it was always kind of meant this weird kind of story, this narrative around Shane Gostisbehere. If you ever looked at him, Gostisbehere was drafted at 5'9", I believe. He's even smaller than what he is today. He actually had a large growth spurt, which is part of his evolution, why the Flyers were even able to find a defenseman like that in the third round. Typically, he probably would have been taken in the first. Most people don't understand it, but even what he's done so far qualifies him as a first-round pick defenseman, at least second-round pick defenseman, and without a doubt already. Whether people like his defense or not, his offensive game is, again, way above average. Now, that the two of them were always kind of seen to complement each other so well, right? Ghost had all of the offensive gifts, but not enough of the physical. Morin has all the physical, not enough of the skill. But between the two, Morin was very fast in a straight line. Ghost was obviously super agile. This was always something we always kind of dreamed of. Morin got injured, and over time, people lost hope in him. And I say this all the time, and if you can go back, you can listen almost every single time I've ever mentioned Morin. I do not waver, and you will notice through lots of my content, I do not waver. For instance, even Lance Green, one of our writers, who I respect and I very much like him, he wrote an article about Steve Mace in comparison to Carter Hart. I see nothing there. I'm just being honest. I see no comparison there. And again, everybody's got their own opinion. I don't waver on any of this. If you guys think I'm down on Carter Hart, no, not even close. I'm down on the Flyers' defense. I think that's been pretty pathetic. Getting better, hopefully. But that's been my issue. I don't give up on players. Why? Because I play the long game. And like I said, it's been 8 years since I've watched Sam Morin get drafted. How many people said he was done? Go back and watch my videos. Watch anytime I ever talk about Morin. I even said at the beginning of this year that I talked to a knee specialist about his knee. I said his age, his situation. Again, the fact, I say it over and over again, the fact he's 6'8", why does Embiid allowed to have knee injuries and then turn into a superstar? But Sam Morin is not. He doesn't get a benefit of the doubt. Our big guy, he can't have knee problems, which, by the way, all of them do. And you should expect that Sam Morin's career will not be as long because of his knees. I mean, people remember Darian Hatcher? He could barely move at the end of his career. Large defenseman, suffered from knee problems. Not crazy. It's okay to understand, to doubt Morin, to not see, he doesn't have the fast hands. None of that stuff ever mattered to me. Last game, Sam Morin comes in, scores the biggest goal of his career so far, the game winner. If you watch that game against the Rangers, there was a shift in that game, and it was because of Sam Morin. And I mean this. The Flyers weren't playing that well at the time. They weren't necessarily losing. But Sam Morin, if you can go back and find, I don't remember the timestamp, but he checked 2 Rangers into the board at the exact same time. Nobody else was around him. Him and 2 guys, both of them against the wall, smashed them, left them. That hit made such an impact, it literally changed the entire momentum of the game. I would even argue his fight, the last game, the Flyers better have paid the bill on that, because that's exactly what they wanted. And don't let anybody lie, that's exactly what they wanted. Especially to somebody like Brendan Lemieux. I mean, that's like punching NAK on our team, right? Like you're looking for guys like that. This team needs that energy. Sam Morin, you can even see he talks about it. They're his family, his best friends. Look at the way Ghost and company reacted. Remember, I said 8 years this kid was drafted. That doesn't mean the past couple years. 8 years he's been going through our system. And that means coming back to dev camp, going back to juniors, then in our system, doing well in the AHL. And the key thing, I really want to emphasize this, and I thought a lot about this element. Players decide when they are ready. Just like an employee, you want a promotion? Go tell your boss. Otherwise, you're not getting one. Nobody's going to give it to you. Sam Morin went to the GM. He went to Chuck Fletcher, said, I'm a defenseman. That's what I want to be. That's all Chuck needed to hear, right? There's a reason Morin got another chance. He asked for it, and he took it. And that is the mindset of a winner. Give him more respect than you even realize. This is probably just the beginning. Because, again, I say this all the time, just because this player didn't develop when you wanted him to, doesn't mean he won't. Scott Lawton developed late. Again, this is a big physical player. Being an intimidating player takes time. Kids can't do it. Don't let them lie to you. They can't. Sam Morin is just getting old enough. He's just gaining confidence. Let's see what he can really do. It was one of the most beautiful moments I've ever seen. To see it come full circle with the knee injuries, that is why I watch this sport. It's why I follow prospects. Like, that moment, to me, was incredibly emotional. It might sound very strange, but to me, it meant a lot. Because I know people joke about Sam Morin. I see it. I don't have a silly Twitter handle about his name. I don't have any of that stuff. I take him very seriously, and never once did I not. And I want everybody to know that, and I hope that you guys did too. I actually would assume that a lot of people who listen to me did. Don't ever give up on talent. It won't even help you. It won't even benefit you to give up on him. Play the long game. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? And the other player to last time do that, and I want to say this, and this is very important, and that's why I brought it up earlier. The last time that I heard a player go to the general manager and said, I'm ready, was Sean Couturier, who was on the fourth line, getting very little minutes offensively. Everybody gave up on him offensively, and he went to the coach himself. The coach, GM, said, I'm ready. I want more. And then he took it. Just because they didn't do it at 22, 20, 21, even 23, doesn't mean they won't. You know, keep that in mind when you guys think about somebody like Nolan Patrick, who you've all counted out, ironically also scored the other night. Not all. I know not everybody. There's people who still love him. But it's okay to panic. I get it. I don't blame anybody for being worried. Oh, I'm worried when I see I'm concerned. I'm concerned about it. But it doesn't mean I see the end. And the same way, just right now, the Flyers find themselves outside of the playoffs. I am concerned. But I don't think it's the end. They have a fighting chance. They always have a fighting chance. And if I'm not thinking about the playoffs this year, you damn well know I'm thinking about the playoffs next year. And if you think that you need a whole U-Haul to turn everything around and make the playoffs, I've been watching this game way too long. Way too long to deal with any of this reactive stuff. And I would recommend anybody who listens to me to start doing the same. You might even think I'm wrong at first, and I'm wrong a lot. Don't get me wrong, I'm wrong a lot. Just like everybody else. We're all wrong all the time. We have big egos about it. We like to cover it up. But the reason I play the long game, because I've learned not to give up on players. They will always, I would say 80% of the times, surprise you. Because they didn't get here by accident. Sam Morin is not an average person. You ask him about the journey he went through to make it back, it will not be a regular story. It will not be the story of, I hurt my leg and I took some time off and then I decided to do something else. I very rarely hear that unless, the only players who do that are the ones who literally have no choice. And even the ones that you think quit, they probably didn't. They probably went to go play in another league or try something else. Even a guy like Wellwood, if you guys remember him, who got his Achilles torn. It's extremely unfortunate. Was an NHL caliber player. Still became a coach. They're not going to quit. They're not going to quit. So don't expect them to. And don't act like they should, because why would you draft them otherwise? Why would you want people like that in your organization at all? I would rather have Sam Morin try till the very end. And for everybody around to see, why do we talk about Rudy? This stuff is real. This is very real. Determination is very real. Hopefully Sam Morin can be the spark that this team needs. But a very emotional moment for me. I hope that you guys learn to appreciate that. I hope that Morin can continue what he's doing. I don't think it's a fluke. I think we're watching the beginning of his return. It's going to take time. He's going to have up and downs still. But again, he's got years ahead of him here. Not 1 year. And he's a defenseman. He's an NHL defenseman. And now we know it. Good luck to Sam Morin. Can't wait to see what he does on the Flyers back end.